Gotta move back, huh? Stay standing. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, and please remain standing for the invocation by Pastor John Verso of Choose United Methodist Church. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Almighty God, our Creator, Sustainer, and ever-present help, we thank you for this day with all of its blessings and its challenges. We thank you for the officials and citizens gathered here and for our communities that we strive to serve. Lord, you know that we make our plans and plot our courses, but we ask that you would establish our steps. Let the discussions we have and the decisions we make reflect your wisdom and serve the common good. Guide us, we pray, O Lord, as we place this meeting and each other into your hands. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Verso. I want to welcome you to our community. He started on July 1st at Choose United Methodist Church as new pastor at Choose United Methodist Church. So I will welcome you, your wife, Christy, and your son, Ben, to our community. He comes to us from Glasgow. And again, pressed into service, his second week on the job. So thank you for being here today. I appreciate it. This regular meeting of the Township Council is being held in accordance with the scheduled meetings of the Township Council, established and adopted by the Township Council, which schedule designates the time, date, and place of this meeting. Adequate public notice of this meeting has been provided pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act. We are using electronic amplifying and recording device in order to obtain a clear and audible record, and we request all those wishing to speak be recognized and state your name and address directly into the microphone. The recording device will be still utilized by the Township Clerk's Office for the preparation of minutes and shall be the official record of the Township Council meetings. Madam Clerk, may I have the roll call, please?
Mr. Hutchison?
He is away on
Ms.
vacation.
Grace? Here. Mr. Mignon?
Here.
Mrs. Stubbs? Present. Mrs. Winters? Here. Mrs. Strato?
Here.
Mr. Mercado?
Present.
Mr. Parliament?
Here.
Mr. Cardis?
Here.
Deputy Chief McHenry?
Here.
Mr. McNulty?
We now have our first public portion. This is for agenda items only. Each speaker is entitled to 3 minutes, and there will be 15 minutes for the first public portion. Is there anyone willing to speak? Close the first public portion. Waive the reading, accept the minutes of regular session May 9th, 2022, and May 23rd, 2022. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make that motion.
Second. Thank you, Mr. Mignot. On the question, roll call, please.
Ms. Grace?
Yes.
Mr. Mignon?
Yes.
Mrs. Stubbs? Yes. Mrs. Winters?
Yes.
Mrs. Strato?
Yes.
Mr. Mercado?
Yes. Next is ordinance introduction. They will be hearing at the second reading. Ordinance 0-22-08, ordinance amending chapter 81 of the code of the Township of Gloucester entitled Vehicles and Traffic of the Code of the Township of Gloucester. This permits the municipality to enforce chapter 81 of the code and the municipal property, the main state center for the arts parking lot, 27 South Black Horse Pike in downtown Blackwood. So this will enforce general parking, handicap parking, and towaway. I entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. On the question, roll call, please.
Ms. Grace? Yes. Mr. Mignon?
Yes.
Mrs. Stubbs?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters?
Yes.
Mrs. Strato?
Yes.
Mr. Mercado?
Yes. Next is ordinance 0-22-09. This is a first reading. There will be a hearing at the second reading. Ordinance of the Township of Gloucester amending mortgage registration relating to foreclosure and abandoned real property mortgages in foreclosure, providing for the form of registration and requiring maintenance and security by mortgagees for the care, maintenance, security, and upkeep of the exterior of foreclosure and abandoned residential property by creditors who have filed a summons and foreclosure complaint regarding property within the Township of Gloucester. Purpose of this ordinance is to amend the process to mitigate the amount of deteriorating foreclosed or abandoned property located within the township. which the creditor or the mortgage foreclosure or mortgagee is in possession. It allows the township to protect these neighborhoods from becoming blighted through the lack of adequate security, maintenance of foreclosure or abandoned property, or in the action of foreclosure or foreclosure. Sorry about that. I entertain a motion
I'll make that motion. I'll second it.
on the question. Roll call, please.
Ms. Grace,
Yes.
Mr. Vigil,
Yes.
Mrs. Stubbs. Mrs. Winters. Mrs. Estrada,
Yes.
Mr. Mercado.
Yes. Just as a note, when we were going through our recession, this was a tool, correct, Ms. Farmer, that we used to make sure that these properties that were abandoned and that mortgage companies held the note on were maintaining them, or we built, were taking care of them.
That's correct.
Next is our consent agenda. Any council member would like to move any of the items on the consent agenda, please speak up. Hearing none, I entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
I'll make that motion.
On the question, roll call, please.
Ms. Grace,
Yes.
Mr. Vigil,
Yes.
Mrs. Stubbs. Mrs. Winters.
Yes.
Mrs. Estrada,
Yes.
Mr. Mercado.
Yes. Mr. Cars came to me before the meeting and he had a item that was not, we canceled the workshop and I told him that we could put this on at our meeting today. It requires a straw poll. Can you speak on it, sir?
Yes, we have money in last year's capital budget and this year's capital budget. I believe it's 250,000. And that money is to shore up the old Public Works building. They're going to do what's called pinning the corners of it, and some other things to make sure that that is more stable than it is right now.
And currently, can you inform the public and my colleagues what is taking place in that building? What is being held in there? You have code enforcement that,
We have code enforcement in there, yes. We do some repair work in there, and we have our wash bay in there.
are there any questions for Mr. Cars?
Is this the entire building that's gonna be?
It's primarily the side that, they're going to address the whole building, but the primary concern is the side that is facing the gas pumps. And the roof has to be fixed too. The roof has a couple of holes in it. We're getting water in there.
And will the entire building be used?
We're hoping when pricing comes back that we'll be able to cover the entire building. And yeah, the building will be used.
Any other questions? Madam Straw poll, please.
Ms. Grace, Mr. Vigil,
Yes.
Mrs. Stubbs. Mrs. Winters,
Yes.
Mrs. Estrada,
Yes.
Mr. Mercado.
Yes.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go to our GTE Gov Access emails. Bear with me. We have 3 of them this evening. The first is from Peter Heimbaugh at 2 Morningstar Court, Sicklerville, New Jersey. Gloucester Township Council has recently directed the Gloucester Township Administration to take steps to better control and to reduce employee overtime expense. Can you please give me an update on the status of this overtime reduction effort? The mayor and business administrator have spoken to the various public works supervisors about reducing overtime in public works. Most of the overtime that has been approved presently involves capital projects and is not charged to the general fund. In the police department, the mayor has spoken to the chief about reducing overtime in both the police department and dispatch. And I'm just going back to Mr. Heimbaugh's statement here that we directed the administration. I expressed a concern about the amount of overtime. I did not direct the administration, and I don't think any of my colleagues directed them. I have a concern about the amount of overtime for all of our departments. So that's our first question. Second question, from Peter Heimbaugh at 2 Morningstar Court. As you know, the New Jersey Comptroller's Office has found Gloucester Township in violation of New Jersey law on sick leave payouts. Question 1, how did the New Jersey Comptroller's Office inform Gloucester Township of these violations? Question 2, can you please fully explain these violations? And question 3, can you explain what Gloucester Township will be doing to develop a corrective action plan as required by the New Jersey Comptroller's Office. So I'll respond to it, but I'm also going to put in layman's term and also let Mr. Carter speak on it, and if Mr. Parliament wants to speak on it as well. So how the New Jersey Comptroller's Office informed Gloucester Township of these violations? The township received a copy of the report via email on Thursday, July 7, 2022. Question 2, can you fully explain these violations? First, to be clear, Gloucester Township has not made any payments to any employees that violate any state law. We received the report this past Thursday. We're still reviewing it. However, we do know that the OCS report actually found very limited issues with respect to Gloucester Township employees. According to the report, 2 of the township's contracts appear to provide for payment of sick time other than at retirement for employees hired after the effective date of the sick payout cap statute. For the township's union employees, the effective date for the statute was December 31st, 2010. The date upon which the contracts in effect on May 21st, 2010 expired. The township has concluded that it has not paid out any individuals other than at retirement for their sick payout in accordance with state law. Further, note that the township contracts all provide that with respect to any individual hired after December 31st, 2010, they're not permitted to receive more than $15,000 in a sick cap payout. The report's reference to a date of February 23rd, 2015 is incorrect. That date has nothing to do with our sick leave payout. It was a contractual provision related to health insurance. Question 3, can you please explain what Gloucester Township will be doing to develop a corrective action plan as required by the NJ Comptroller's Office? The township will take necessary steps to develop a corrective action plan. There's a response regarding the incorrect reference dates that we sent to the Comptroller's Office, and it appears that the only correction is a small modification of language in our 3 contracts as it references resignation and death. For individuals hired after December 31st, 2010, sick leave payments may be only made in the event of actual retirement. Again, the township has not actually made any incorrect sick leave payments. So layman's term, in 2007 and 2010, Governor Christie put a cap on sick payouts. They were called boat payouts, where folks were leaving municipalities with $500,000 or more, or whatever, exorbitant amounts of payouts in sick leave. So this put a cap on it. There were 60 municipalities that the Comptroller's Office, State of New Jersey, had solicited information from. 57 of those 60s were cited for having a violation, either 2007 or 2010. Our township was just 2010. Is that correct, Mr. Cardis?
You're correct. 2007, we were in compliance, and they believe because of some language in the contracts that we're not compliant with 2010. Although in my discussions with HR and with the labor attorney, I don't believe that to be the case. We have not surpassed the $15,000 payout for employees hired after May 21st, 2010. And the date actually, in the direction from the state, it was that if you had an active contract, labor contract, when that May 21st, 2010 date hit, your date would become the date that the contract expires. And in this case, all of our contracts expired December 31st, 2010. Therefore, that was the language that we put in the contract, and that's properly correct. So the Comptroller's Office, when they're observing that date and saying that's wrong, is incorrect.
Keep us abreast of any corrective action that takes place.
I feel you're going to be perfectly exonerated with this.
Mr. Carter?
It's probably also important your statements, so if you're in the business administrative statements regarding the report are accurate and correct. But also should state that our labor contract, in our labor contract, there's a clause in there that if there's any portion or paragraph of the contract contrary to any current existing law controls.
You are correct.
Thank you. Our third eGov question is from Denise Coyne at 1060 Choose Landing Road, Laurel Springs, New Jersey. Is the rehabilitation project recently approved for block 17001, lots 39 to 45, in block 1706, lots 1 to 22 in Brittany Woods, eligible for any funding from the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. Per our Affordable Housing Trust Fund spending plan, which was adopted in March of this year, no funding has been allocated to that project in Brittany Woods. That concludes our eGov questions. We'll now open up the second public portion. Anyone wishing to speak is entitled to 5 minutes. We have 30 minutes for the second public portion. Once everyone has spoken, they'll have a chance to speak a second time. Yes, Ms. Henry.
Good evening, Dina Hendry of Summerdale.
Good evening.
That's weird to say. I unfortunately couldn't attend last meeting because I was at the GTBOE meeting. I do thank you for having this live streamed and recorded, so therefore I could view at my leisure. Being that I am a new homeowner, and even though not new to GT, but new to coming to these council meetings, I was wondering if you can kind of explain to me sort of the process of when a council member should abstain from a vote.
The council member obviously has to abstain if there's a conflict of interest, either personally or by neighborhood or whatever. For any reason that a council member feels they do not want to vote, they want to abstain, they're at liberty to do so.
Thank you for answering that. Reviewing the meeting from last week, I noticed when the voting for this Brittany Woods section, there was 4 votes. Wouldn't you think, in your expertise, professional opinion, that if anybody had any conflict of interest with Brittany Woods, whether they lived there previously or served on their beautification committee, that they should have abstained from that vote?
I don't really know if because someone resided in the community, because I don't believe, maybe someone can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe that development is part of the Brittany Woods. I don't think there are residents in that development of Brittany Woods participate in any of the project or a recreation facility that's being built there. So, I would be just an off-cuff response. I don't believe that would put someone in a conflict of interest because they're in the community. If they had an interest in that lot, they had an interest with the developer, a different story. But just being a resident there, I don't believe so, because they're not part of that project that's being built there.
Okay, I thank you for the clarification.
Hold on.
I have the floor.
Ms. Smithman? Ms. Smithman?
I apologize.
Ms. Smithman? It's not gonna happen like last time. No more shouting out here.
Last week we did-
No, Ms. Smithman?
Every time I ever
Ms. Smith-
shout out,
Ms. Smithman?
And I apologize here for speaking.
Thank you.
Thanks. Other question. So being a new homeowner and now having like trash having to be picked up, I do understand that with summertime and this cool thing called COVID, we can't anticipate having full staff for our trash companies or things like that. Wouldn't you think that it might be beneficial with the third party that we adopted like a text program? So therefore residents wouldn't have their trash out for 3+ days in the heat, creating disgusting maggots, letting us know that there's a delay in trash pickup. I mean, it's kind of unsightly when you're driving on a weekend and you see mounds of trash bags because we're anticipating our trash to be picked up on a Friday, but it's not.
Ms. Hendrick, in the past, I know that that has been communicated to our residents online. I believe sometimes there's been a mix of reports or texts that trash was delayed due to heat or labor issues. This past weekend, was it?
This is the 3rd weekend in a row that,
I know they worked Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to get caught up. What set them back was, number one, they're having labor problems like everybody else.
understood.
And the other problem was that's one of the rare holidays that they get off, which is the 4th of July. So that sets them back a day right there.
But if there was just a text message like, hey, listen, we forgot your street, put your trash back in, so therefore you don't have those disgusting maggots.
So we could do it by text, but we could do it by Nixle alert.
However, is easiest. And then the other thing is there is a park off of Lamppost Lane that is, I believe, a GT park. It hasn't been cared for about a good 5 months. The trash needs to be picked up. The lawn needs to be cut. It's just kind of unsightly.
Within your development, Lamppost Lane?
Yeah.
Tom, if you could send Public Works, or
Yeah.
you can take a look at it.
That's all I got.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great evening. Is there anyone else? Ms. Smithman?
Good evening. My name is Shaughnessy Smithman. I live in the SDK Millbridge Gardens apartment complex, apartment 341. It's on Millbrook Court.
Good evening.
I apologize for speaking out of turn. I realize that I was not at the microphone. My apologies for doing so last week. It was quite frustrating to hear from a elected official that they did not know whose name goes on the ticket. When you go to your district section, the barcode on my voter.
Who was the elected official?
Ms. Trotta? Ms. Trotta, I've never had any issues with you ever. I had simply asked you whose name was supposed to be on the ticket, and you became indignant and you stated that you did not know whose name, that you don't look at the ticket before you hand it to the person at the booth. But I am apologizing for speaking without being at the microphone.
Thank you.
On today, for the July 11th, 2022, who is the township engineer today?
Mr. McNulty. Mr. Chadwick will not be here today.
Okay, so he's just out, he's not a new engineer?
He's with from Remington and Vernon.
I don't know what that means, I just see something different sitting there.
He works with Mr. Chadwick.
On Kelly Driver's Road, on my map, it says Kelly Driver Lane, but it does indicate on the street sign that it's Kelly Driver's Road. The section of sidewalk near the Commerce One Plaza has been completed. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Yes, I walked by and I saw that it was located, there was a power pole located at that spot and it was filled in and complete. Thank you. And before the meeting, I was on my way here and I brought up with Mr. Cardis to ask with the utilities for the township. While coming to this meeting today at around 6 p.m. while walking on Kelly Driver's Road, there was a high voltage power to 3 transformers, the 3 phases of it from the high voltage line. It's a little more than 13,000 volts. And from the low voltage side, which typically feeds about 480 volts from the 3 phases, that side was cut also. There was no arcing, but they were not capped off. I called the 911, which is what my phone will call. My phone is not a smartphone, so the service is unavailable. It's still my phone number. It will accept a voicemail message, but I can't use it to call anything other than 911. So I did call previously about 20 years ago. A friend of mine worked at a place that was burglarized. They cut the power line to the building. So seeing that, I did call 911, but I did ask 2 local citizens if they would use their cellular phone for me to possibly contact the electrical company. They declined. Mr. Mercado, you had indicated before that a citizen, another local civilian, would use their phone for another civilian. There were 2 in here and neither one. It's their choice, but they did not. That's what I was trying to convey to you, that people typically will not always utilize the technology that they have. It's their right, and for their own reasons and for their own security. But it would be helpful for residents that are not located here, like this gentleman here. The pastor said that he was not from this area. That can make a lot of complications. But if we had located on every street sign at, say, wheelchair height, indicator, a label of some kind that would read the local police department, and another one that read the local fire department with their address and possibly their phone number on the street sign. So if you look up, you see what sign, what road you're at, and then the municipality that serves that direct location. If you could put it in raised or recessed writing, so someone that does not have the ability to write, either from a hand deformity or say they don't speak the local language enough, they could put it against the label and get a crayon or even a green leaf onto their envelope and scratch in the address so the postmaster could get it to the local police or the local fire department. If you could also put on that a picture, one for police and one for fire, for people that are illiterate, so they know what that address is. If they can mimic the letters to get the address there, they would know which one is the fire and which one is the police based on the picture. You can also put it in Braille. People that are blind are very independent and they can find their way around. Street signs, the posts especially, are standardized at where they're located on the corners of the intersections. They can walk with their cane and they can find it. And if they don't know where they are, if you put it in Braille at the same place, at a standardized place, they'll be able to find it. And then they would know the address to the local police and the local fire for what any type of communication they would like to have with them, for any non-emergency or whatever type of communication they might like.
Ms. Smith, your time's up. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, thank you.
Is there anyone else? Mr. Krug?
Evening, Council. Paul Krug, Blackwood Estates. I had a procedural question because I hadn't seen this done before. With regard to the, I guess it was a resolution maybe that was brought forth for the $250,000 in the straw poll. Can you explain what happened there this evening?
Yeah, so Mr. Cars had spoken to me about having this brought on to our meeting. This is included in our capital budget. So this has been approved as a specific project. So when we do this, what's required is a straw poll rather than passing a resolution.
Yeah, I think also the engineering firm, CES.
Yes.
CES at the governing body's reorganization in January, they appointed that firm, engineering firm, to do those kind of projects. So any project that comes up falls in the category that they've already been appointed to. If the council person is agreeable to that project, then you just need a straw vote. You need a new resolution because you're not appointing a new engineer.
Okay, and because the funds have already been allocated, it doesn't need to come through the meeting as a resolution?
That's correct.
Okay, understood. Thank you. With regard to ordinance 2208, the change in chapter 81 code for vehicles and traffic, this was for the library parking in downtown Blackwood. Is there any more detail on what the change is and why it's happening?
It allows them to enforce any type of violations that take place there. Normally,
And I know you said towing. I just worry we're trying to attract people to downtown Blackwood. So the last thing I would want is someone coming to our area and then their car being towed and having a poor experience by visiting downtown.
if they're obstructing or impeding traffic, if they're in loading zones, if they're in an exit, grassy area, then that's what they're discussing in the ordinance regarding towing them. Normally you find this more so in commercial establishments, correct? Deputy Chief, where they'll permit us to enforce violations for them. And now as a municipality, we're doing this for this particular area.
Have we had reported incidents? Is that the predicate for this, or how did this crop up, I guess?
Deputy Chief, got an answer for that?
I only know because I live in downtown Blackwood from the redevelopment zone.
Yeah.
That was one of the recommendations, I believe, they had
Okay.
was for, tightening up
Enforcement.
parking
Okay.
in that area.
Especially overnight. It's pretty standard, you see that, that's why you need an ordinance. The signage might say no overnight parking, so you don't have people parking trailers. boats in there overnight, whatever. Parking for those that patronize businesses.
Gotcha. Is this gonna include signage that indicates it is public parking as available to, the
I'm not
public?
sure, but I can get you additional information before our second reading.
Okay. And do you know if it is, I know you're on the NPP stakeholder committee, is there, if any funds being dedicated to signage for public parking, whether it be kind of that Rite Aid side of the parking lot or over in the library, just so people know that it's public parking?
I'm not certain about public parking signs, but there are wayfinding signs that are included in plans for that particular area. But I'll reach out to Ms. Caristo, who heads up the MPP and that project, and find out if there's funds allocated.
Okay, understood. And then, I know we just kind of got to catch up on the budget vote last week a little bit. And obviously 3 members voted against the budget, and then at least Mr. Hutchison agreed that there were some concerns surrounding overtime and other concerns. I'm sure overtime isn't the only thing that led to the no votes and to those who agreed with the no votes. So although maybe you didn't dictate to the administration or township administrator, you recommended, had there been other recommendations given to the administration or an action plan as to how best to reduce our expenses, or reduce our spending? Because as at least I tried to talk about at the beginning of this year, it's an all year event. It's not just when it crops up in May. We have to be working towards it constantly. So I'm wondering if there's an action plan surrounding that.
Collectively, we have not submitted anything to the administration. Perhaps individually, if anyone has mentioned anything or spoken to the township administrator or the mayor, you're more than welcome to chime in.
So we at least had 3 no votes. Mr. Hutchison seemed to agree that there was some issues. I don't know, maybe the rest sitting up there, but if we could get together and maybe put something in front of township administrator and the administration, I think it would certainly be a good step. I've been here requesting some representation on reducing the spending. I would very much like to see that if possible. Just a request. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Krug. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak that hasn't spoken yet? Ms. Smithman?
Thank you. Shaughnessy Smithman. I live in the SDK Millbridge Gardens apartment complex on Millbrook Court in apartment 341. You had mentioned earlier that there was issues with overtime for some of the local employees of the government, the local municipal workers. I saw some were police officers, some were other official parts of the municipality. It was a few days ago, I was walking on Blackwood Clementon Road, just outside the local convenience store. I was on my way to the Save-A-Lot, and there was a cellular phone on the ground. My phone does not work. My health is not at its best, so sometimes if I do not have the strength, I will call the local police to see if they will pick up an item such as a cellular phone that is found outside that does not belong to me. That is something that the local police would want. Per your advice, I did ask a local member of somebody in the parking lot of the convenience store. I just approached and said, "Excuse me, would you mind using your cellular phone to call the local police? Right now you're in Gloucester Township." I asked the gentleman if he would call. He actually identified himself as a police officer. He was not from the area. He was out of state, but he was a police officer. And he said that he would bring the phone to the lost and found for the Gloucester Township Police Department. If it was Mr. Mercado or any other member of the council, I'm sure that they might indicate the same, that they would be either a council member or they work for the municipality or township where they were, and they would either call or bring in an item for something such as that. They don't get paid for that. So when it comes to overtime, please be mindful that it seems to me over my life experience of working hourly that it has a natural flow into not frown upon it so much, because while it does need to be observed, it is something that people, you just don't get paid for it. So you know, if you have to pay everybody overtime to pay the one person that is overworked, it's worth it. Even though there would be 99% of the people that absolutely do not deserve it ever, the one person that does, it's worth it to get the money to them for their relief of whatever things that they might do. And also, I did forget, there was also Mr. Krug, Paul Krug. You had mentioned something that he did some volunteer work last city council meeting. He was just recently in there, he had taken a photo of some kind. You were quite pleased that he had a photo opportunity and he took it. I think that that's fantastic that he volunteers his time. It's not something that a lot of people do. I myself do not.
No, it was Mr. Crew.
That gentleman right there,
Yes.
I believe, yeah, he was quite upset. You had mentioned something that he took a photo opportunity. He was
No, that-
volunteering his
that wasn't
time,
Mr.
cleaning
Crew.
up.
That wasn't Mr. Crew.
No? Oh, well, my apologies then. If any member of the community volunteers their time, I think that it's a good thing. It should never be looked upon as though they were just taking a picture. Just say that they do it.
Yes. Yesterday, Pastor Inverso's sermon was about Good Samaritan. That was the central theme of the sermon yesterday at church. So,
There's a lot of people that do good things all the time, and they don't always get a picture or credit for it.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Is there anything else, Ms. Smith?
not at all. Thank you.
Thank you. You have a great evening. Is there anyone else? We'll close the second portion. Polling of directors.
Brilliant,
Nothing to report.
Curtis,
Nothing to report.
Deputy Chief McHenry, Mr. McNulty, Ms. Grace, can't hear you.
Housing Authority meeting scheduled for tomorrow on Zoom.
Mr. Minio,
Thank you all for coming, and I just want to mention real quickly that our local Little Leagues in Gloucester Township had a good showing in the district run. Our softball team in Ariel Little League, they made it to the championship. Unfortunately, they lost. The Blackwood 11s, they did win District 14. They're currently in sections in Haddonfield. Good luck to them. And then the Ariel 10U team, they're playing for the championship Thursday night. They have to get beat twice to represent District 14 in sections. Thank you all. Have a great night.
Mrs. Stokes,
Thank everyone for coming. Please stay safe.
Mrs. Winters,
I just want to recognize there were, I believe, 5 players, I think it was 5, I might be wrong, from the Gloucester Township area that represented the United States in Canada. I guess it was right after the 4th of July, I think it was. They did get the bronze medal, so the United States was represented there, and they're doing amazing things through the country. For ball hockey, it is growing as a sport. It's being recognized more and more. You may even see the top 10 sometimes on ESPN. So it is something that, you know, I say kids, they're young adults now, from our town are representing us out of the area. Have a great night.
Mrs. Strada,
Thank you all for coming out and have a great night.
Mr. Mercado,
I want to thank everyone for coming out this evening. Throughout the summer, in downtown Blackwood at Harmon Park is the farmer's market. It usually starts around 4:30, 5 o'clock and goes in for a few hours there. If you have an opportunity, please visit. There's activities that take place there. And they're highlighted each week in the mayor's newsletter that goes out via email. And I believe this Friday is a movie night in the park at Veterans Park. Of course, it's free to event. There's a huge, you might be able to catch a little bit of that concert that's taking place out there. It's parking lot's packed today. With that, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Have a great evening, everyone.
Aye.
This is my cousin Danielle.